So we're going to talk about Ethereum, do some price analysis on the USD pair and the BTC pair. Why I think this will drive alt season. So hi everyone, welcome to the channel. If you are new, please do subscribe, hit the bell button, like and leave a comment. So on the screen, first and foremost, 8th of February, very soon, CME Group are going to be offering futures of Ethereum, which is obviously the catalyst for why Bitcoin went to 20k and then back down to 3k essentially in 2017. Now, that was the driving force. We're now seeing a big massive push, sirens, irritating, I know, in Ethereum, but how far will it go after CME futures? We don't know. Buy the rumor, sell the news, maybe, but for me, I'm looking at the BTC chart and thinking it is severely undervalued, and it is justified in my actions of not actually holding much Ethereum at all. I've got a very small bag of Ethereum, one in fact. Yeah, I know. But people will always think, well, why? The BTC value of Ethereum has actually dropped more than the holds that I've actually held. I held Zilliqa, I bought into Polkadot and Reserve Rise. They've all performed better in BTC versus Ethereum in that sense, and I'll explain that in a minute. But we're getting all kinds of information battered. This was in November. An analyst, market cycle, 10k. That word 10k is getting repeated a lot. All around Twitter, all around the world, all around it. And whether it happens or not is another thing, that's just speculative, but ultimately people are keeping an eye on it. And this is the kind of chart that people are on about, where people believe and feel that Ethereum could easily top and do a 10x from here, essentially from this point, which in my opinion is huge. And it will change the whole, dynamic of the market with the dominance chart and all kinds of stuff like that. So we've actually got people doing good old cameos of celebrities saying, oh, Ethereum's going to go to 10k, just for a bit of banter. We've also got other celebrities like the KSI, who's very well known in the UK, who is bought into Ethereum. He even mentioned it on a video recently. So there's a lot of normies coming into the market, which is obviously key. So let's have a little look at some things. Now, we'll look at the USD chart first because it's easy for people to understand. We've bounced at the 618 level, which was this bounce. I'll do the chart analysis so you can see it. Now, apologies, numbers are small. You'll just have to bear with it. I will try and tell you. So we bounced essentially off the nose. If I zoom in enough, there you go. You can probably see it now. On the weekly time frame, we've pulled back from essentially, let me just bear with me. Yeah, so this is the top. This is where we reached. So we reached 1300, sorry. And we literally tapped on the nose of 618 level, okay? If I zoom out again, you'll probably notice some things. What we could happen from here, we could actually pop from this point, maybe, who knows. If we go down to a lower time frame, actually, you'll probably see it in a bit more detail, look a bit more nicer. There you go, you can see the... However, it is very early days. We need to bear with it, and we need to make sure that we are going to carry on going. So we've hit this level of resistance. We've now, support, sorry. This is obviously resistance in this point, and we're kind of in this mid-range. See where we go. We could carry on going up from here, and if we do carry on going up, well, guess where we're going to go? We're going to go and see these all new levels up here. If we go to the weekly time frame again, you'll see it. Apologies. You'll probably see, most likely, all this information of new levels. So we've got 2,256, 1,981, and 1,789, which are extension levels. They are extensions, price discovery mode. Anything can happen right now in those areas. So we may have had this move play out, but we may also go lower, obviously. But you've also got to look at the other situation as well. So if we remove that element, you can do it the normal way, essentially, where you're looking at other kind of levels where we're pulling back. We have pulled right into that, basically into that band of the 38% levels. If you're doing it from the other way, which obviously does respect that 61.8 level, which is on the reverse side. Moving on though, if you're looking at the other extension levels on the other side of it, obviously the way my fibs are, I got other extension levels. You could potentially look at a 1,690 or 2,100. The confluence is in and around these band levels, so the confluence isn't too far away. So that's the basic USD chart. This is obviously governed by what Bitcoin does, as per my video yesterday and explaining what the USD prices are of coins. Let's do a full chart analysis though of this chart. Now, I mentioned before that I don't hold Ethereum because it hasn't really moved much. So let's just go from April or May time, alt season last time. We only really done a 98% move from low to high. We're below that level. We are below, right now, September levels of alt season from the last one, essentially. When you think about that, Ethereum's grown by 3 times the value in that period of time. We were roughly about $390, give or take, $400 at that point. And we're not even nowhere near as high as that in this value, which is always key, which is why I explained that video yesterday. When I look at the likes of my other holdings, and people always criticize me going, well, why don't you hold Ethereum? Well, look at Zilliqa. Zilliqa has made much more money for me in BTC than Ethereum would have if I held Ethereum, even in USD prices as well. When I look at this and I think, well, actually, if I go from that May time, which is obviously here, and go up to this point, that's the high point of the first wave. We pulled back, the high of the second wave, 500. So we're looking at about 3 to 4x in BTC already on that level. Even if I go from the point of when I bought, which was on this point, you know, even current price is 200 more money. When I look at RSR, again, similar sort of situation. RSR tanked massively, but I was buying in and around this region. I'm up in this just about. It dipped a bit lower, but in terms of when I bought this, I bought it really low. And I think I'm up a little bit. I'm not up by much, about 40%, which isn't too bad, but that's a new fresh haul. That's different. But when I look at the likes of Polkadot, this has tanked massively. And the dollar cost averaging of this has been pretty good. All of these have good dollar cost averaging. And when you look at this pop here, you know, essentially topping up your bags and seeing where this can go, I think the value proposition of the likes of these is going to be more over time when you look at it, in my opinion. There's a few other ones as well. You know, essentially look at how this has moved recently. So I actually was buying in this in June time, as you can see, and this is actually done incredible. So again, another one that's popped up loads. Actually, it's roughly give or take those levels. So that's a 3x. When you compare the fact that Ethereum has tanked so much in the BTC pairing over time, you can kind of understand, well, if you were buying in like May time of Ethereum right now, where I was buying most of my altcoins, you know, it's only 53% up essentially. It's not much in current life prices. So that's why I don't hold it, because I found that risk reward elsewhere was much more profitable. Yes, Polkadot, I'm not really up much in that, but I bought in fiat, so I'm kind of looking at that side of it. But I do think that's going to run. I feel that this chart right now will make alt season happen in a nice way. So what we're going to do here, we're going to do a retracement bounce Fibonacci, and we're going to look at the short term as well. I'm going to go from this point here. This is the obvious point we can look at. This one has already happened, in my opinion. So if you're looking at this wick up to this point, we found this level. And when you think about it, look at the confluence between this level here, this resistance level where we're on right now. This is like playing out this 0.27 Fibonacci level. But I'm going to go from this point. I'm going to go from this latest point, because this looks like a good play, to the bottom. So this is essentially the bottom. And we wicked just about towards, so if I just remove that to make that a bit more neater, happy days. When we look at this, we've retraced up. So let me just put that on the wick levels. We've retraced up to this point. We've turned around in and around where this structure has been, pulled back into this level. There's another level of structure here. There's all kinds of structure you can look at, but if you're looking at Fibonacci alone on the weekly, you can kind of see where we are. We are at resistance levels. We've tapped it once, tapped it twice. We're on it or just under it right now with a load of levels of support. This level is massive. So when you start looking at this level here, you got to think to yourself, well, why is it so important? Well, it's just got key levels of structure, and it's got a key Fibonacci point on it from the past. There will be other significant points to this Fibonacci level as well, which will probably become more apparent now when I do this. As you can see there, it's a 382 level as well in between that region, which is also key. And we've actually bounced and held off this 618, but I'll look at the short term in a minute. When you look at this though, overall, I feel that we are going to retrace much higher. I think we're going to start, once we break out from this point, it's going to get interesting. Basically, in my opinion, when we break out above this level here, which is all the way across throughout the history of this chart essentially, that is like, important in my opinion. So you got bodies, wicks, you got all kinds of stuff in and around this region. If I just do it from this wick here, oh my days, what is wrong with TradingView? Gee, me. Boom. Right, so when you look at this level here, we've got wicks, we've got a trailing wick went all the way through, but it actually closed below it. And then when you go all the way across, you've got this level, break through, tap in and around it. Then you got body closures, wicks, all these levels in and around it. Break above that level, we're going to get sent, in my opinion, because there's a massive price discovery region and a gap where this dump has took place. So we're going to find it probably jolt quite a bit, in my opinion anyways. So that's a longer term sort of look at it. If we look at it at other levels as well, we've obviously got this level here, which is kind of important. But for me, I think this level is so important, even though it's just a 23% on this Fibonacci, but it's got other significance. It's kind of important in my opinion. Moving on though, when you start looking at the fact that, well, look at the gaps here, we could see some very, very interesting moves. Very, very interesting moves. But I'm just going to chart up that for now. That is like the obvious. I've got random things outside happening, which is irritating. But when you look at that though, that looks quite neat and tidy. We have formed what looks like a bottom and what looks like a trend, essentially. If you start like literally thinking about that, you could probably think to yourself, well, actually, it's not too bad. It still appears to be bullish. It's still going up. And what we've got in the short term as well, just to make this obvious as well, just to make this really clear, when you start looking overall, we've actually had all kinds of situations where you think, well, what could happen now? We've got an impulse wave, right? So if you wanted to go from this point to this bottom here, you can see here how this 618 level has been respected twice and it popped all the way up to this region, just retraced, right? You're going to get all those all the time, especially on the weekly time frame. But when you're looking at the overall structure from the bottom to the top, we've got this 618 level as kind of important, where it's pulled back the entire move. So if you're going to class this as the entire move, so this whole period of time, pulled back, and now we may be reacting to this level, and we may well be going well beyond into these levels and very, very close to where this big level is. So in the short term, it's interesting. There's other ways doing the short term as well. You can maybe do it from this point as well. If you want it from a flat bottom, you can do it from there. A little bit different, not much data, but again, it's very, very similar sort of ilk. So there's all kinds of information to look at, in my opinion. One other one you can do as well, if you want to go shorter term on this weekly time frame, you can look at this wick up to this point here. And again, you've got a situation where we've retraced, we've hit this 618 level, which is obviously significant all the way across. But once we break above that, we may well see extension levels tapped beyond this region again. So when you zoom out, and you probably think, well, when you zoom out, you're looking at this massive dump. Look at it, it's ridiculous. We are low. This is a low chart. And we've got structure to tell us that we are starting to form an uptrend. People are getting bullish on Ethereum, but when the Bitcoin dominance drops and more money flows into Ethereum, this chart is going to be more dominant than Bitcoin. It's going to start going up. If this chart goes up, the altcoin market will follow it, and we'll see parabolic moves again. When we see parabolic moves, it's going to be interesting. But even if we just trickle up to like even like this level here, which is obviously going to be important, it could be very, very interesting. Even if that happens and we get an 84% increase in Ethereum, boom, we're going to see altcoins fly because the dominance is going to push it. And that's going to be the biggest thing. So when you're looking at it overall, that is the entire market. In my opinion, Ethereum will push the market, depending on the dollar ratio, depending on the dominance, all kinds of stuff like that. Ethereum will lead the alt charge. And then all your altcoins will fly in the BTC chart. But when you're looking at overall analysis, and you're looking from this level here, being potentially the start of the move, where that is the swing high, the swing low, retracing that entire move, boom, happy days. Even if we retrace to that point, imagine if we retrace to the top of that point and form another kind of like situation where we could start going even higher. There's all kinds of stuff to look at. In my opinion, undervalued chart, it's looking pretty damn good. So, Ethereum analysis, that is it in its simple form. In my opinion, direction of travel, we are going upwards, as you can probably allude to. But let's just see how far it goes. Let's just see. In my opinion, I think it's undervalued if you're buying in BTC, Satoshis. It has been lower, but let's be honest here. Like the absolute bottom there was crazy. You know, when you go from that bottom to that high, 150% up. We're obviously lower than that right now. 97% up. So are you really missing out if you're moving a bit of Satoshis into Ethereum for a potential pump? Probably not.